Hi, I'm Alan Stratus, Technical Services Manager with Cargill. Hey, today I'm going to discuss the top 3 questions that I get asked about Stevia from those customers that are trying to reduce sugar in beverages. So question number 1 to kick it off. So, hey, I'm looking to use Stevia, for example, in a beverage. How much sugar can I replace, and how do I know which Stevia option is the best one to use? So this one here, I like to kind of tackle this first by kind of reversing the question back to the developer, really trying to dig in and understand what the current situation looks like. Where are we currently are in levels of sweetness, and where do we want to go? So understanding what the current, grams of sugar per grams of serving size will really help give us an understanding of what the current Brix is, which is just another term for percent sugar on a weight by weight basis. Also, we tend to use sucrose equivalents as another term as well. So to give you a couple examples in some beverages, carbonated soft drinks out there typically are in that 11 to 12 Brix range or SEV. Iced teas, 6 to 7. So before we kind of dig into this a little bit deeper, let me talk a little bit about some of the limitations associated with high intensity sweeteners. Unlike nutritive, cane sugar, as you increase the concentration, you're going to get a linear curve in the perceived sweetness. Not the same for high intensity sweeteners. And this goes across the board, whether you're talking about artificial versus non-artificial high intensity sweeteners, is that as you increase the concentration, yes, you're going to get an increase the sweetness, but then it eventually starts plateauing and leveling off. And for the most part, all of the individual high intensity sweeteners as a standalone cannot reach beyond a 10 Brix or a 10 SEV. The only exception there is sucralose, which can do that. That's why you'll tend to see sucralose used as a standalone sweetener in some of those diet sodas that are out there. So in the case of stevia, is that, we think that we can provide solutions that from the spectrum of, from 0 all the way up to maybe 9 to 10 SEV. We've got a really good broad portfolio that gives you an opportunity to choose the right solution for your application, knowing that everyone's different, whether that there's other things to consider. Cost could be an issue. Maybe you're not needing to do an extensive amount of sugar reduction. So that's why it's really key to understand what's the starting point in terms of Brix. And then what percent do you want to do? Do you want to do 100%? Do you want to do 50% reduction, 25? So from there, once we find out that targeted SEV that we need to match with stevia in terms of sweetness, then it's easy to go ahead and just figure out within our Cargill portfolio which particular stevia option is going to be the best to choose from. So speaking of our stevia portfolio, let me kind of go through this real quick. So Cargill came out with a Reb A stevia product portfolio back in 2008 when it first come out in the market with that. It's high purity Reb A extracted from the stevia leaf, labeled as stevia leaf extract. Works great. However, when you want to really do some deep sugar reductions, it does hit a ceiling where what we feel like if you need to go above and beyond a 3 Brix, there needs to be another option. So that's what we worked on, knowing that if you try to really push the envelope using Reb A products, you certainly could try to get a higher level of sweetness, but what ends up happening is that you bring in some of the other off tastes associated from the stevia leaf extract. So since it was all about taste, Cargill went to work. And so we really looked at what are the specific stevia glycosides in a leaf that taste the best, and hey, can we isolate them, purify them, and recombine them in different ratios? That's essentially what our Viatech portfolio is for our stevia. So we came out with that portfolio about several years ago, and what this allows us to do, since it's a much better tasting stevia than the Reb A products, now we're able to dip into above and beyond that 3 Brix target. So if you want to do a sugar reduction that's extensive, up to 7 and maybe even an 8 Brix, then Viatech could be an option there. And then lastly, from the work that we did, developing the Viatech portfolio, was understanding that there's other stevia glycosides out there that taste great and much cleaner, but in such small quantities. One of those identified as Reb M. So what Cargill has decided to do to be a more sustainable way to offer this ingredient, since its concentration in leaf is in such trace amounts. we are offering a high Reb M and Reb D product made via fermentation. So that's what our EverSweet is. And with that, it being such a clean taste, we can realize achieving comparison Brix up to maybe about a 9 to 10 pushing the limit. So, then there's the realm of possibility of maybe developing a diet soda that needs to be at that 10 or higher range by using EverSweet. So to wrap it up, just make sure that you reach out to your Cargill Sweetener Technical Services tag, because as I talk through the product portfolio, within each one of them, specifically the ViaTech, we've got several different versions that are tailor-made to be used in specific beverage applications, whether it's dairy, tea, carbonated soft drinks, flavored waters, juices, you name it. We can really pare it down and really give you guidance on what particular option to use from our portfolio, and also give you that guidance of usage as you reformulate. So the second question is, how can I reduce sugar using stevia without adding total cost to my formulation? This is this has always been a matter of discussion, is whenever we talk about helping, reduce sugar with a non-artificial high intensity sweetener, people tend to look at the price tag of some of these, in our case, our stevia. They're used to seeing the prices in that range for a sweetener, with sugar being in, between 30 and 40 cents. But then, oh my gosh, now, you're talking such higher prices for stevia. So it's a little bit unfair to do that comparison at just the list price. And I'll talk a little bit about that now. I think what really helps is getting a grasp of understanding stevia's actual cost of use as you formulate with it. Whenever someone's looking to do sugar reduction and replace sugar with something that's a non-artificial, such as stevia, don't fret, because seriously, as we work through it, you'll find that there's actually going to be some cost savings there. And the reason behind that is because of the potency of stevia. So with high intensity sweeteners across the industry, they're all pretty much compared to each other by its potency levels. Stevia has a potency of 250x. So what that essentially means is at a 5% sugar level, and by the way, that is the Brix level that is used as kind of the anchor point when you compare high intensity sweeteners that are out there. What is the potency at that 5% or that 5 Brix level? So with stevia, what you'll see is that, at 5 grams of sugar, that's equivalent to only 0.02 grams of stevia. And so because you're only using that small fraction of stevia in your formulation work, then your costs, that's where the underlying cost savings resides, right? So to put it in a little bit better perspective, I like to talk about it in more of terms of costs per pound per sucrose equivalent. So since sugar is sucrose, its price is what it is. So let's just call it whatever between the 30 and 40 cent range. Stevia, on the other hand, is much higher cost, but then if you break it down, assuming the 250 potency factor, now you can actually realize actual cost savings of up to maybe 7 to 8 cents per pound of sugar that you already have in your formulation. So what I'm saying is, by hitting priority number 1, you want to reduce sugar and use a non-artificial such as stevia. Great. But at the same time, don't expect that it's going to add cost, because up to about a 5% sugar replacement, you're going to definitely realize some cost savings there. For every pound of sugar you take out of the formulation, that's a savings of up to 7 to 8 cents per pound. So sugar reduction aside, there really is no reason not to evaluate stevia, specifically our Cargill stevia, as a partial replacement of sugar to capture cost savings. Okay, so I'm gonna move to question number 3. Are there any other tools to use to help improve the overall taste of my beverage if I'm using stevia as a primary sweetener? So the question in terms of, are there any additive ingredients that could be used? The answer is definitely yes. But let me just to start, and I want to reiterate too that Cargill is continuing to innovate in the stevia space. We can go back to the previous question that when I went over the product portfolio of Cargill, we've really come a long way. If you look at it from 2008 to where we are now, from moving to Reb A products to ViaTech and now to EverSweet, the Reb M's, really what a change. And so we are continuing to look towards the future and to continue to build within that portfolio and to offer you some more great tasting stevia options. So that innovation is continuing to happen. Just wanted to reiterate that. But on the flip side, there are other non-nutritive sweetener ingredients that Cargill actually offers that could come into play here. So the first one I really want to talk about is erythritol. So erythritol, it's a sugar alcohol. It has the appearance of sugar, so it's crystalline, it's white, but its sweetness level is only about 65%, relatively sweet as sucrose. The really positive thing here is that it's approved for use in beverages already as a standalone ingredient, up to 3.5% in beverages. And as it adds some level of sweetness, it also provides some added bulk because it's, and some mouthfeel because it's a bulking agent, the same notion as well. But what's really key is thinking about how it interacts with stevia. So what we've seen is addition of erythritol with stevia. We see there's some synergistic characteristics there. So what does that mean? So as an additive effect, it actually changes and helps improve the taste profile of stevia. So associated with any high intensity sweetener, they all tend to want to spike. Actually, it's a slow onset, but it's a very spiky sweetness, and then it will actually want to linger on. Whereas sucrose, it has that quick 1.5 second upfront sweetness, and then it starts dissipating 1.5 seconds and it's gone. So what we want to do is try to mimic that same sensory profile associated and that you experience when you taste sucrose. So how can we get there? All high intensity sweeteners are going to tend to want to have that delay and then also that lag of sweetness as well. So what we've seen what the erythritol does is kind of help shift that curve a little bit. So with that upfront sweetness a little bit, provide some roundness. So you're going to get some more roundness of sweetness, and then cut off some of that tailing as well. So huge advantage, and it doesn't really take much. We've seen a huge success at 1%. We actually have FEMA GRAS status approval, and that's through the Flavors and Extract Manufacturers Association. It's approved to be used as a flavor and be listed as a natural flavor as long as you're using it in a beverage at 1.25% or lower. And like I said, we've seen some huge advantages just by using it at 1%. And then the other option I wanted to talk about briefly too as well is that aside from our stevia portfolio, we also have enzyme treated stevia, which we also have FEMA GRAS status approval as considered as a natural flavor if you use it in a beverage strictly as a flavor at a maximum usage of 65 ppm. So again, we definitely do have other tools or additive ingredients that we can use to help improve the sweetness and the taste whenever you're using stevia. So keep that in mind, and also keep a lookout for another stevia tool that will be coming out soon to the market. Very excited about it. So thank you for listening to my top 3 today. Please feel free to reach out and contact me anytime if you have any questions. Happy to help you out. Thank you.